for Israel and Palestine. So we started, as you probably already know, I ran 3 intention experiments for Israel and the Palestinians, peace intention experiments after the war kicked off on October 7th. We had about 30,000 people who took part collectively in those 3 experiments. And I survey everybody afterward. And we found out extraordinary information about what happened to people. We heard people saying things like, my boss, who's never happy, whose life is really miserable right now, his business is going out of business, he's got a lot of serious health problems, she's known him for years, but he's never behaved this way before. He's cheerful and happy. Someone else said, it's transformed her relationship with her dad. Someone else said, my son and I are communicating more. He replies almost immediately to messages, whereas before it could be days or not at all. Somebody else said, my partner and I have been living in the same house, but barely communicating. And suddenly it's been amicable. They've been able to hold civil discussions, which is amazing. Other people saying, more generally, I'm more tolerant and don't react when someone is harsh or insulting to me. Someone else says, I'm trying to be less judgmental, listen more, and be more present with people. And I've had thousands of these. I've had thousands of people responding to intention experiments over the years, particularly peace intention experiments. And we found there is an extraordinary mirror effect. We found about 40% of people say they are more loving with everyone in their lives. People are more tolerant. About a quarter to a third say they're more tolerant of people not like them. People say they're getting along better with their family members, their partners, their children, their friends. But the biggest change is about 47% say they're more loving for everyone they come in contact with. It's completely changed their lives. The peace that they set intention for over just 10 minutes in a group permeated into their lives and changed them. We also find that about a third report physical improvements. Things like this. On this latest experiment, a type 1 diabetic said, my blood glucose levels are better controlled. Somebody else said, a rewiring of my brain occurring and still occurring. I've had little or no pain in my right hip and lower back, even without doing my daily stretching, said someone else. Someone else, having been in a deep depression, I'm starting to see improvements. Someone else, my mental health is improved. I can see the world more neutrally. No more conquer and divide. No more choosing on which side I'm on. And I've seen that over and over again. People who are divided over COVID, for instance, families where they weren't speaking to each other. Some got vaccinated, some did not. Some wanted to be in lockdown, some did not, have come back together. Somebody else, emotions are easier to accept and go through me. I feel them and move on. An enormous number of people who felt triggered by people not like them. So more than about a third to 40% say they are much more tolerant of people not like them. So all of that happens in 10 minutes. That's all we do an intention experiment for. I've got thousands of these kinds of comments back after 10 minutes. So what occurs to me, as it occurred to me in 2013, when I started doing Power of 8 intention work, was what if I did this for a whole year? Would everything in people's lives begin to heal? Not just mirror effects, but actual healing. Would you have the power if you did that? Excuse me, to heal all of your life, not just your health, but also your relationships, your finances, your career, your true purpose in life. This was the question I asked in 2013 and put it into effect in 2015. What happens if I put people in groups for a whole year? Would it heal them? And the answer I got back is that people already do have this power. We're all born with this power. But the problem is, it gets denied. We understand this as children. But then, as we go through life, those authority figures, whether our parents, our teachers, or whomever, tell us this doesn't exist. We don't have this power to heal. And so we begin to forget, or we begin to disbelieve. We doubt it. But you have this power through the power of your thoughts. I've seen it thousands of times. You just have to learn some basics about how to use it. You may have known this as a child, at least some of it. You may have known your power, but now you get to relearn it. And there are a number of keys I've discovered, at least 13 keys to becoming a master of intention. So I'm going to share a few of them with you in summary. They all have to do with the right time, the right place, the right words, the right head and heart space, because it's not just an intellectual exercise. It also involves the heart and the right ways to do a Power of 8 group. I've been studying this since 2007, since my first intention experiment. I've run 41 intention experiments now, 37 of which have shown measurable, positive, mostly significant effects. There's no pharmaceutical drug out there with that consistent track record. But because of all of those experiments and the thousands of groups I've run, I've learned over time through testing the right way to do a Power of 8 group. So here is my second key. I'm going to give you 3, as I said, and talk a bit more about generally what people did to help themselves. The first one I want to talk about is my second key, which is about focusing intently. And that enables you to enter a mind state that is very different from meditation. It's a very focused degree of attention. In meditation, the object is to stop thinking, essentially, to get into that space of just pure awareness. This is very different. It's about focusing very intently on your target. And I like to say you enter hyperspace because, in a sense, you do enter a different mental dimension. And we've proved that with neuroscience studies. It's far more than relaxation, and it's very different from meditation. It's a kind of calm hyper-awareness, not a cessation of thought, and a focus on that subject of intention. You're flooding your mind with it. You're flooding your visualization with it. But it is the complete opposite of meditation. And why is this different? It is because you are focusing on an intention, but also you have a very different brain state. In meditation, many studies have shown it causes an increase in your slower brain waves. They are called alpha and theta brain waves. Those are the brain waves that predominate in meditation, light dreaming, that sort of thing. Also, you have an increase in activity in the parietal lobes. They are the parts of the brain that sit toward the back of the head, and they tell you what's me and what's not me. They are increased in meditation. And you also have an increase in parts of the self aspects of the brain. Now, it doesn't seem that way. You seem like you are having a cessation in thought, but that's what's happening in your brain. In our intention studies, our neuroscience studies of the power of eight, I worked with a team of neuroscientists, and we worked with groups of power of eight students, student volunteers who had never done this before, never even meditated before. And we found very different brainwave signatures, quieting of the parietal lobes, the part of the brain that makes us feel separate, quieting of the frontal lobes, the parts of the brain that make us feel doubt and worry, and a blurring between me and not me. You are in a different brain state. You are in essentially a mystical state that is almost identical to mystical states studied by the University of Pennsylvania when examining the brain waves of Buddhist monks during ecstatic prayer, Sufi masters during chanting. These are people who have entered into a state of ecstatic oneness. That is what happens during group intention, the kind of group intention that I practice. And interestingly, I've started this back in 2008 doing Power of Eight groups, and I found it doesn't require hours, many, many minutes of priming. Other people who do intention work oftentimes expect people to spend a lot of time priming themselves into a certain brain state. With my techniques, you enter that immediately. These student volunteers, it occurred within a minute of them getting into this Power of Eight group and getting into this hyperspace. And remember too, I never have people intend for more than 10 minutes because that's all you need. And when people continue to meet and have intentions for 10 minutes, it gets deeper and deeper and deeper. But you don't need hours of priming or years of practice. You can learn how to do it, and it happens immediately. So I like to call it a fast track to focus and a fast track to oneness, a miraculous state of oneness, because you experience what the field feels like. Most of us don't. Most of us talk about being in the field, and you are already in the field. You don't have to enter it. You're part of it. We're all part of it. But we don't experience life that way. And this is a fast track to do so. Now, our seventh key that I want to share with you, that is part of my masterclass, is about being specific. This is probably the most important key of all, because people get this wrong all the time. They say very general intentions and wonder why it doesn't work. Many people think, no, you can't direct the universe so specifically, or you might get less than you would. That's not what happens. Not in my experience with thousands of groups. When you focus your attention on being specific, the universe gives you that or more. But it's really important to be specific and tell the universe what you want. And so that means figuring out your goals, not what you don't want. And a lot of people will say things like, well, I don't want this job. And they won't specify what job they do want. Or I need more money, but they don't specify how much and don't necessarily make it the label. So you want to focus on the process of healing or whatever, and not the label of what you're necessarily healing. Always frame your intention in positive words. My intention is to be free of all cancer in my right hip and to be healthy and well in every way. Or my intention is to overcome, or my intention is to be completely healed of. It's okay to mention negative things like illnesses because you are framing this positively. Don't intend ever for big general wins. Like I've had groups say, we're all intending to win the lottery. And I usually say to that, is that the money you need? You need $16 million or whatever it is, $200 million. And they say, well, no, I need $16,250 to buy a new car. So I always say, intend for that and tell the universe exactly the money you need. I've had many of my students do exactly that. They were $2,545 in debt, intended for that, and the universe rewarded them with a bank rebate of just about that amount of money. And for others, when you're intending for others, focus on what they actually need or want, not what you want for them. Give them the agency of telling you what they want. Here are a few things not to intend for. World peace, although we'd all like to have that, is too big. I've focused, and what does that mean? And where? I focus on specific places and then measure with scientists whether or not we've had an effect. We've done about 11 peace intention experiments, and every single one has shown a lowering of violence, and every single one has shown these amazing mirror effects. Don't intend for general love on the planet. Intend for the person you want to love, or more love in your life, and be more specific about what you mean. One of our students did that, and out of the blue, she gets a call. She did this with her group. Her name is Joy. And out of the blue, about a week or two after the intention, she gets a call from her boyfriend of 35 years ago. And she hadn't heard from him for 35 years. They started talking. She was in Australia. He was in the UK. They started talking. They had long and lovely phone calls. They started really connecting and writing and all of those things. And the upshot was, this was happening during COVID. He moved to Australia. He went through quarantine, and they are together now. So she was very specific about the kind of love she wanted, and here it came. Don't do a group win, as I said, like the lottery. Don't intend for everything you want in your life all at once. You can do more than one intention. Don't do intention for general health or a happy life. Specify what kind of health it is. What do you need to improve in your health? What do you mean by a happy life? Focus on one thing at a time. Don't just focus on a new relationship without specifying, and never just ask for $1 million or pounds or euros. Specify what you need. What is optimum for what you need? So those are examples of being specific. And these kinds of specifics are a key, I have found, to healing relationships. One of the things I teach is how to use intention to get along with people not like you. In fact, get along with anybody. And many aspects of this work. And here's one of the reasons why you can heal with intention, and you can heal relationships with intention, and particularly group intention. It all has to do with the vagus nerve. This is the master nerve of your autonomic nervous system. So I'm going to be a little biological right now. And this master nerve starts at your neck, makes a pit stop at every major organ of your body, and also controls your sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, that fight or flight mechanism. So it has 3 levels, though. When you are stressed about something, you go into fight or flight mode. You know, your heart beats faster, your breathing is faster, or you even go into freeze mode where you just shut down in extreme cases. But there's a 3rd layer to the vagus nerve, and that is the ventral vagus nerve, which creates a feeling of safety through connection and social engagement. and it controls your calm and connection response. That has major things that happen in your body as a result. For one thing, oxytocin. It's the love hormone, as it's been called. You release oxytocin when you're caring for a baby, when you're with your dearest loved one, and you're making love. It gets released. And oxytocin is amazing because in studies, they've shown that when it gets released, it increases trust by 44% in all areas of life. So oxytocin is also contagious. When people have released oxytocin, it creates synchrony with other people. You get along with them better. Now, here's the amazing thing about it. When your vagus nerve, when you have what is called good vagal tone, your vagus nerve is balanced, you adapt better to the new, your body works so much better, it heals cells, you have better attention and mental processes, better behavior, better personal relationships. And guess what causes vagal tone more than anything else? Group support. Group support. So when you are in a Power of 8 group, you are healing everything in your body, and that's why we see so many miraculous healings. So many people having better jobs, having better relationships, having better mental processes, healing their cells. All kinds of things happen like that. So in our Intention Masterclass, what I do is not only teach the 13 keys and group intention, but also how to use intention for relationships, how to pick up other people's intentions. That's a real key skill. How to use it to overcome negativity. So we do the 13 keys to intention mastery, learning to use intention to heal all kinds of different things in your body, psychically reading other people's intention, becoming conscious of your inadvertent negative intention toward them, and what to do about that, using intention to get along with anybody, even people you don't like or agree with, or people who disagree with everything you stand for. I mean, we're so polarized. We need this more than ever. I teach you to protect yourself from negative intention, both your own and other people's, and also to use group intention as a superordinate goal. By that, I mean a goal that can only be achieved by the collective efforts of everyone involved. And that is what happens with group intention. Not only does it heal your vagus nerve, not only is it a fast track to the miraculous, but it also enables you as a group to heal other people, even things outside yourself. I've seen Masterclass students divert fires in California or get more rain in their locale, all kinds of things. Now, I'm going to give you a few examples of people who've healed through the Power of 8. And this is a typical year-long class of mine. Allison Mavey had vitiligo, her skin stopped repigmenting, and it started repigmenting during her year with her Power of 8 group, who helped her find the source of why it was happening. We had Marianne, the second one, who hated her job. She was living in the very north of Canada at a dead-end job in a lab, outside of any friendships, and also barely able to speak above a whisper. By the end of the year, she was driving, as you can see, a purple motorcycle. She also quit that dead-end job and started working as a therapist, which she'd always wanted. And there's Jolie with her dog. She wanted to do something more than just be a stay-at-home mom. Her husband was really against it. Through the group support and intention, he suddenly started backing her, starting her own business, which she did. And Bev, who was down to about her last 200 pounds, she lives in UK, And her group intended for her to have enough money to start her own business, a website to help people who have birthmarks. And lo and behold, she gets a grant from Lloyd's of London, where she used to work, said she was eligible, and she got a very big check. Then we had Mitchell Dean, who suffered from nearly suicidal depression. Through his group, he was able to heal it. He was able to lose 15 pounds. He was able to improve his practice, his Qigong practice, and even overcome writer's block to create a new system and a new way people could heal. He's a clinical psychologist, so this was really important for him. We have Melissa, who was a woman in her 50s who ended up getting this amazing new job. It just came into her lap, and also selling her car for exactly what she wanted to sell it for, having her sister sell her car for exactly what she wanted it for, and even find herself a new boyfriend. Not Johnny Depp, by the way. That's her at Disney World. And Trudy, who regained her hearing. And Andy, who not only went through a muddled divorce, but got herself a fantastic new job by intending for someone else. And on it goes. Here's some people from recent intention masterclasses. This is Kira, and how her Power of 8 group got 2 women in her group out of severe pain.
The Power of 8 is a really powerful group. We have had healings in our group. One of our ladies, Juliana, she had severe hip pain for many years, and we did the Power of 8 intention on her, and the feelings around it was just so much love and light. And I guess when you're talking about some of the questions around focus, and you just kind of focus on them and their and what they would be doing. So I guess imagining her dancing, imagining her just moving and grooving or walking easily and just being really ease of motion. And literally like 2 days later, she said her hip pain was completely gone, and it's still gone. And that was back in like April or May that we did the intention on for her. So that was incredible, because she'd, like I said, been suffering for quite a few years. Another situation just this last week, or actually 2 weeks ago, Elena, she's a senior, she's I think in her 80s, and she was having a really hard time walking. So she was like a cane or crutch, and her daughter was walking with her, and she couldn't bend her leg. Her knees, and it was just severely painful for her to bend her knees and her leg. We did the intention on her, and literally right after she started bending her knee, and her daughter kept saying, "Don't bend it, Mom, don't bend it." But by the next day, she was bending her knee, and the same thing, just that intention, that love and light, and just intending for her to, and in visualizing her, walking without the cane and being able to sit easily, and seeing her to, walk and move. And it was, so she, by the next day, she was walking and moving. And in fact, the last Sunday, because the group that I have right now, we meet on Sundays. She forgot about the healing because it'd been all week that she'd been walking, and so we reminded her of the miracle. She was like, "Oh yeah, I did it, but I've had some other miracles this week too."
So we see so many. There was Tom Speckman and their baby Hamilton, who was not expected to live. He was a newborn and had all kinds of problems. And on our first masterclass meeting with him, he came on in the middle, showing this picture of his poor little baby, and said his intestine had been perforated, his heart had an arrhythmia, he had high blood pressure in his lungs. And as I say, the doctors were saying it's touch and go. So we kept doing intentions for, as a whole class, for Hamilton Speckman. And Hamilton, I'll show you now.
About 11 days old, was diagnosed. He had a perforation in his intestine, and that led to him being admitted to the NICU, here in Jalisco, in Guadalajara. And the day after he was admitted, we had the very first session with Lynn in the Masterclass, week 1. We were actually late, and you gave us a moment to kind of talk about what was going on, and the amount of energy was incredible. It was tangible. It was emotional for us, and feeling everybody sharing the moment in time with us and our family in our need was so uplifting. It was such an empowering moment, and it allowed us to navigate these very difficult times that ensued over about 30 days. He remained in the NICU, and then he came home after an ileoscopy, and he had one of these bags like on his body. I forget what the name is, but it's difficult to keep emotionally together and regulated in these very difficult medical kind of moments. And the intention class and the guide, the tools and techniques that you gave us allowed us to remain calm through those very challenging times in our life, and actually become better.
And as you can see, little Hamilton is a healthy little boy now. We kept intending for him every time he had an improvement and then might slip back, and he's fine. But that isn't the only thing that happened to Tom Speckman. Then they had amazing things happen in their attempt at the same time to set up an alternative medical center in Guadalajara. Here's what he said.
Things in our life started falling into place. We created a well-being center. Since then, we've got multiple therapists. We have acupuncturists, we have massage therapists, we have meditation person, we have a OBGYN doctor. So we're really trying to bridge now the East and Western worlds of medicine and just mindfulness, let's call it. And a big part of that came from being a part of the Intention Masterclass and really getting out of my own way, getting out of our own ways, surrendering and letting life unfold. And like I said, I had to hold back sometimes because I had so many stories of amazing things happening that I couldn't explain. All these synchronicities were just falling into place, like week by week.
So all that kind of thing happens with businesses, with health, but we've also had other successes. I love the story from Ulrich, who was part of my master class this past year, who finally got a chance to buy his house after 25 years of trying. They rented it, and the guy would never sell it to him. Here's what happened.
First thing I'd like to share, wonderful experiences we have in our group, which is really, like you just said, it's a family to us at the moment, really. Yeah. Most of us really take part every week, and we really had good experiences so far, from healing people, from healing friends in our group. And two really wonderful things happened to me personally. I had two intentions for the house we have rented now for 25 years. And you see, the group is called When I Get Home. And oh, it's so wonderful. We intended that we were able to buy this house. And imagine what happened. We got it. Last week, we signed the contract, and we were, the landlord before was very, this one unfriendly, but he wasn't really willing to sell the house to us. And now he did, and really for a wonderful price. It was much lower than our group said. Yeah, and I mean, this is really miraculous to me. You see, this is really, really, really wonderful for us. And the second one, we intended 2 weeks ago for my mother-in-law. She lives in a nursing home so far, and it's not possible for her to stay in that place any longer. She has to get to another place where she gets 24/7 care. Okay. And we said, okay, within the next 2 weeks, could you please offer us a home for my mother-in-law? And within less than a week, we got this place. Yeah, this is really, really amazing. First, I thought when I set up the intention, that well, 2 weeks is really limited time. It's asking too much of the universe. Yeah, but it really happened. And my mother-in-law, she also prayed for this house, and it's the place where she wanted to be. Yeah, and I mean, this is, what more do I want? Nothing.
And Eileen Coates, I've had about 5 people who have always wanted to write a book, and every single one ended up doing so. In fact, several of them were bestsellers. Here's what happened to Eileen.
My name is Eileen Coates. So this year, I took your Master Intenders course and really learned what it means to formulate intentions and do your intentions with heartfelt gratitude for other people, and how that spills back on you and creates a more beautiful, miraculous life for yourself. And the outcome of this year's course with you is, after over 12 years of promising myself as a retired journalist from mainstream media that I would finally write my book, this year, during your Master Intenders class, I wrote my book with some YouTube friends called Mandela Effect, Friend or Foe. See, it really does work. Thanks, Lynn. Much gratitude and love to you and your whole team and everybody who practices the power of intention.
It's really interesting how many people, once you're in a group, do the thing they always wanted to do. But I guess my favorite testimonial has to come from Jerry. Jerry was in my class a few years ago during lockdown. And he went through a class, a whole year's class, and then joined it again. And I said, why? And he said, I just wanted more. So here's what he felt, which is, I think, the real key point of it all.
But the biggest thing is sense of compassion, empathy, love, caring that we have for each other. I can't replace that. I've done better in the COVID season than I have at any time in my life, I think, certainly in terms of just being able to be connected with people. And so that's the true treasure that I've experienced.
And he's also said,
you can feel the love. I mean, I now know what love feels like when you're getting it from other people over the airwaves.
I now know what love feels like. Jerry said, I felt more love than I ever have in my life. From a group of strangers who meet every week and have your back and altruistically intend for you. And so I like to think I'm doing what one person wrote in and said to me once. You're doing more than research. You are breaking open people's hearts. And I like to think that is my work. And my work is also about altruism and the power of altruism. So just to give you an idea, before I take your questions, which I will in 2 minutes, the Power of 8 Intention Masterclass has 3 parts to it. One is the teaching portion, Intention Boot Camp, I like to call it. 6 2-hour live and interactive sessions with me. That is successive Saturdays starting February 17th. You meet with me at 10 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon Eastern. Is that right? 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. UK time, 7 p.m. Europe. For 2 hours, we're live and interactive. You get to practice, you get to get into groups and pairs and all kinds of things. So I teach you and I give you homework and you practice over those 6 weeks. Then we put you in groups and We put you in a group for a year in your time zone, in a friendly time zone, and also your preferred meeting times. And then you get personalized coaching, regular intention clinics you can come to and refine your intentions, get coaching to meet your goals. I spend oftentimes an hour just answering questions and helping people or more. So we have regular intentions through the year, plus all kinds of other challenges, exercises, etc. So you really are working with me for a year. And as I say, one of the key pieces of this is altruism. It allows the heart to leap across the fence. And when it does, I have hundreds of students who say, once I got off of myself, I started getting things, not just a feel-good effect. I started getting what I wanted. I started getting that perfect job. I got that new relationship. I healed myself and much, much more. So people have asked, before I take your questions, how long does it take? In total, if you were to meet with your group for 1 hour a week after you take the boot camp with me, it's about 58 hours in total for a year, plus as much time as you want to devote to it, to homework and practice. So that's how much time it takes through the year. So it's not going to replace the day job. It's plenty of, it's just enough time for most people to manage. And also, I just want to give you an idea of what it costs. So it costs $499 under our early bird. Just to give you an idea of what that is spread over a year, it's $1.37 a day. So it's about a quarter of the cost of a cup of coffee every day. So if you go into Starbucks every day and you get your coffee, I'm about 3/4 of that cheaper. So that's the question too, is it's not very expensive when you gather the kind of work that is entailed and the kind of mastery you will have at the end of the year. I always think, well, is it worth $1.37 to change your life? And as I see it, I see thousands of people changing their lives. So let me take questions from you all now. Let me stop sharing. Okay. So we've got, somebody has raised their hand. I don't know whether or not I can take a question from them. Robert, can you help me on that one?
We can turn their microphone on if you like, if you'd like them to speak.
Okay, let me answer a few of the questions and then yes, of course, that'd be great. One person said, I don't have a lot of money right now. Can I start a local group with only the books as a guide? You can join my community and ask for people to join up in your time zone and work together. So of course, what I try to do is give people all kinds of tools, no matter how much money they have. I like to provide things at all kinds of levels of income. And my masterclass is so much cheaper than most year-long courses. Will this webinar be recorded? Asked Margit. If so, can we see it later on YouTube? Absolutely, and we'll be sharing it on my other social media. Sue Ann says, I see that the participants got value, but have these peace experiments done anything for peace in the Middle East? Well, after our 3 intentions, which were for a ceasefire and the release of hostages, there was a ceasefire and release of hostages. Sue Ann, did we do this? Who knows? There are many, many factors involved in the end of violence. But we've done 11 now, and every single peace intention experiment we've done has had some kind of positive outcome. We've also created peace in the hearts of the 30,000 people who participated. And that can have an enormous ripple effect. Like, imagine all of the people they're in contact with and affecting those people. And so it goes, and so it goes. with the participants alone, you can create enormous levels of peace and tolerance. Okay. Neil said, I think we all agree the traumas of our childhood create the disease of our present. Do these experiences need to be addressed with our intention? I think that it all depends on how serious the trauma was. And I do teach another course, which is primarily in our retreat, but we also do weekend events called Heal Your Past, or unchaining yourself from the past. And those use intention in a very specific way to heal traumas. But a lot of trauma creates a dysregulated vagus nerve, Neil. And what I find is the group effect is a fast track to healing that dysregulation, which is oftentimes the real problem and causing health problems, relationship problems, and so forth. Phoenix says, I'm very disconnected from people who have my same beliefs regarding this. Is there an easy way to meet others who are already doing this, who want to start a new Power of 8 group with me? Join my website and join my community. And there are lots of people there. Okay. Let's see. Nancy, where are all 13 listed? I don't see it in the book, The Intention Experiment. It's not. The 13 are in my course, Nancy. Decades ago, says Peggy, I was taught that 8 people is the maximum for an intimate group. Thus, I always limited groups in my home to 8. Is this part of your intentional Power of 8? Great question, Peggy. No, it came about by accident when I was just toying with how to put intention groups together in a workshop for the first time. I said to my husband, I don't know, maybe I'll put them in groups of 8 or so and have them send intention to someone in the group with a healing challenge. And we then called it, he called it. My husband said he's a good headline writer. I love it, the Power of 8. We started putting people into groups of 8, but we also learned over the years that 7 can work, 6 can work, 9 can work, 12 can work. 8 is a kind of perfect number because it's not too big, it's not too little. It's a Goldilocks figure. So I like to say it, and it has a lot of meaning. 8 is a sideways infinity sign. It's good luck in China, and so forth. So there's a lot of historical connection with 8 and sacred geometry too. Shannon says, it's only on Saturdays. I work Saturdays. Will there be a Q&A afterwards? Not on Saturdays. Absolutely. I have intention group sessions through the year that are on weekdays. And everything is recorded. And your group, you could choose to meet, Shannon, with a group member, a group that is meets on weekdays, because you get to choose the time, the time zones and the preferred meeting times and days of the week with your Power of 8 group. And the personal coaching, as I said, is not on a Saturday. Somebody else asked it on a Saturday. I've wanted to do this for ages, but Saturday's impossible for me. So sorry. The recording, Allison, you can do it with the recordings for the lessons themselves, the intention boot camp, but everything else doesn't have to be on a Saturday. Will there be lots of time? How will lots of different time zones be managed? Well, we meet, Ariadne asks, we meet for the intention boot camp on the most friendly time, which is 10 a.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. UK time, and everything in between. But you are put in a group in a time zone that you choose. So something that will work for you. So we have people in Australia who take the Masterclass, and we put them together in a group in their time zone. Remember, for everything other than 6 weeks of the year, the first six weeks of the masterclass, they are meeting with their group weekly. So they will mostly be meeting in a friendly time zone if they are, for instance, in Australia. What if the local NAACP members wanted to take the masterclass? Well, that would be nice. I'd be happy for them to do so. Okay. And for Karen and everybody else, if they don't have a group and they want to just create a group, again, join my website, join my community pages. Hang on 1 second. Okay. And why don't we give someone a microphone now and ask them what they'd like to ask me? Robert.
Okay.
I think we had Joy.
Joy Fang, you can turn your microphone on and ask your question.
Okay, that's fun.
I didn't had a question, and so far that I saw questions. I saw questions in the chat, and I said, and I only said in the chat, you have to ask your questions in the Q&A. Otherwise, Lynn will not see the question.
Yes.
And they were asking if this webinar is only an advertisement for your webinar, or are you also giving a small training in this webinar?
I just did give a training. I told people.
Yes, I think so too. Yeah.
Thank you for that question. Yes, I mean, I always like to give value. And the way we talked about this webinar was that I was going to give people some suggestions and training for free, and also talk about the masterclass and answer any questions about it. And hopefully I've fulfilled both. Thank you, Joy. Okay. Sally says, is it possible to have a short taste of the practice? I think we did. I've been giving you some tips for that. I could put you in a Power of 8 group in other words, have everybody on the webinar just feel like what it's like for a few minutes, just to feel. Okay. Why do we have to have permission of the target individual to do an intention for healing? Says Marcia. Marcia, I always tell people to ask permission unless you can't. If it's somebody with dementia or it's a child or a baby, it is because they should have agency in here. They may not want you to intend for them, and they have the right to say yes or no. I never seem to know what I want in specific ways, so my intentions are always more general. How do you figure out what specific things to intend for? That's something I help you with, and that's what I teach people to do. When they are in the class, we help you specify, and you work with your group to create specific things. And usually it is by bouncing things back and forth that you can find out what it is you really want. But that is a very common issue. Okay, let's see. Do you see healing processes in participants with this intention work, like things going worse before it goes better? For example, trauma release after doing an intention, or a period of healing grief. That's from Meryl. Meryl, in the main, no. Very infrequently, I will see that things get a little bit worse before it gets better. And very infrequently, people will say, well, the pain got a little worse and then it got better. But I don't usually. We usually see improvements, and sometimes, and many, many times, miraculous ones. If we intend for a stranger, will it work without having a photo of him or her? Margaret, it depends on how much of a stranger. Usually it's somebody in the group who knows that person. I usually suggest they have some sort of connector with it, the person's name or a photo. Now, in the example I've given in my book, The Power of Eight, I talked about Luke, a young boy who tried to commit suicide, and I had our whole masterclass intending for him after his parents requested it, and he said, okay. He didn't believe in it, but he was okay with it. And so they didn't know him, but I showed them a picture of him. And, it worked. It seemed to work. Okay. I'm from Germany, says Margaret. She signed up for 2024. Thanks, Margaret. Do I know yet what day of the week the German time zone group will meet? No, we're going to let you all arrange that. So we have a system that will be on the website where you can choose it and create it. And we will indicate different time zones. So your time zone will be European time zone, and we can indicate that it's a German group. So if you want, you can speak in German together. And Anna, okay. And Anna says, I've not received, you registered for joining the 8 Revolution and Intention experiments. I have not received any communication about it. I sent an email about it, but haven't received a response. Any guidance here about what to do? The 8 Revolution, you should have received information about all the things that are available on the website for people who want to be part of it. And by the way, thanks, Anne, for joining the Masterclass 2024. You should write directly to Laura Ortiz, and Laura, it's Laura, Laura, at wddty.co.uk. She will put her email in the chat. How many Power of 8 groups are currently active? Tens of thousands. My Power of 8 intention group has not seen any results with our intentions, even though we get specific with our intentions. We've had several members drop out because they feel it's not working. I'm also ready to drop off, says Judy, as I don't feel we have a cohesive group anymore. Only 3 people participating in a call. It's been disappointing. Judy, I don't know if you have taken a course with me or whether you've just read the book. I think here's what I would recommend. Number one, oftentimes people don't see results because they're not consistent. They don't follow certain guidelines. They throw in old things, or they get fed up and they start dropping off because they don't see any results. Most of the time, they're not specific enough. Most of the time, they don't take baby steps. And it's a lot of what I teach in this class is how to counter that, what to do. And sometimes things don't happen right away. I had one woman who got the house of her dreams 10 months later in her group. She was with her group and they kept intending for it every so often, and she got it. So I see in the main, the people where it works are people who consistently meet week after week after week. And so for me, the stick-to-itiveness is the key factor. That and the altruistic part of helping each other, doing things, focusing on if something doesn't work, try something else. There are many, many suggestions I could make to that. So I would say if you still have 3 people participating, create a new group. If you were part of a class of ours, write to Laura and we'll put you in another group. But, my bottom line thing is don't give up. How are people chosen for groups other than time zone preference? Susie, they're not. It's only time zone preference and also time of meeting. And you will help determine that when you determine what time you want to meet in the week, what time, evening in the week, evening on Thursdays, or mornings on Saturdays. You tend to determine that. Other than that, we don't try to make people come together who are like-minded, because most of what I teach is how to get along with anybody, even people not like you. So, so it's mostly about your willingness to meet, and the overwhelming majority of our people come to love each other. And they may be very different people, and they grow to love each other. It's because it's the act of meeting together, intending for each other, and using the tools I teach about intentional relationships. Fran, PayPal for payment, please write to Laura at wddty.co.uk, and she'll explain everything about payment. Okay. You'd love to get a taste of an intention group, as I suggested. Okay, so does everybody want to participate in a few minutes of an intention we can hold? Why don't we intend for an extended ceasefire? Yes? If you say yes, everybody just say yes in the chat. All right. I think we're still saying yes. Okay, let's just do that before I say goodbye to all of you. So I want all of you to imagine the hundreds of people who are still on this webinar. Imagine you are holding hands. You're all together, all connected. You are all in the same room. And let's take a deep inhale and a deep exhale. A deep inhale and a deep exhale. A deep inhale and deep exhale. A deep inhale. And now, on the exhalation, I want you to hold this intention. Our intention is that all Israeli and Gazan hostages who are civilians are immediately released, that there is an immediate and extended ceasefire, and that both sides, with other countries, work immediately for lasting peace in the region. Take that down to your heart. Imagine with your five senses there being permanent peace. You can imagine complete hostage release. Imagine love, joy, and connection between the Arabs and Israelis. And let's just hold that for a moment. And as you do, feel the energy and the power of this group intention. Okay, everybody, let go of that intention, trust the process, and in your own time, come back onto the call. And I'd love to hear you write in the chat what happened to you and how that felt. And did it transport you to a different realm? Did you feel like you were part of a connected whole? Did you feel the energy? How did it feel to you? Was it moving, as somebody is writing? Can you feel the energy, even though we're all just sitting in front of our computer screens, as I am, individually, we create a kind of psychic internet. And let me know if you felt that. So write that down. And that was only about 3 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes. When you do intentions together, it's 10 minutes and you go much, much deeper. But that gives you a little taster of what it feels like and how powerful it is that you can get transported, even if you are meeting with people virtually, as most Power of 8 groups do. They meet over Zoom or Skype or something like that, even on phone calls. And yet they have this extraordinary connection. So I wanted you to experience that. And I hope this has been really useful for you, informative. You'll take away some of my suggestions. Somebody said, I will just answer these last couple of questions. Somebody said in their group, Barbara, they had 2 people with hearing loss. Each individual had 2 sessions, but the hearing hasn't changed. Do we keep intending for their hearing goals? Yes, and break it down. Take baby steps. Take it for finding out the cause of it, for a slight improvement, and then another improvement, and things like that, but don't give up. And another person asked about if 2 people sign up for the course, do they get a discount if it's a husband and wife team or 2 friends? And of course, if you write to Laura at wddty.co.uk, as you'll see in the chat, please talk about it with her individually, and we will consider things on an individual basis, but the likelihood is yes. Wonderful. Okay, everybody, it's been wonderful being here with you. I hope this has been enjoyable and informative. And I hope you go away and take my 3 tips about focus, about being specific, and about group effects and how they can heal everything in your body, and particularly your relationships, and how they help the heart to leap across the fence. I hope to see you again soon. For intention experiments, don't forget to sign up on my website. When we hold another one, we let you all know. It is, if you want to carry on with the Israeli Gaza one, we'll be doing future ones, no doubt. Just sign up and we'll let you know. Intention experiments are always free for everybody to join. Thanks again, everybody. Thank you, Robert, for helping. Thank you, Laura, for being on the chat. And I hope to see you all soon. Take care now.